do first?
Is there any kind of a time thing going on there? Or?
Well, they were both released the same year. One was released in August, and the other just says winter.
Okay.
Let me see if BookDB has actual dates.
Also, don't quite get the alien playing the 4 handled guitar with mariachi or maraca in one of his 8 free hands.
Well, if you got enough hands to be a band.
Yeah.
Let's see. Snows. All right, so I think technically Marvel's Super Special came out in June, and the other one came out in August.
All right.
Let me find. Did I hit the record button? I did. Okay. Let me find. I have a summary for that one. Okay.
So it's the World in a Bottle one, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, they're kind of confusing because they're, not in the same title. All right. Now, let's see. I was going to try and experiment and also record myself using Audacity. So I have a track with just me.
I see. Going solo already.
Well, if you wanted to do the same and send me a copy of that recording, that would also help. Because
it does allow you to get rid of the background noise more easily.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I have Audacity currently installed. I do.
There you go then.
Okay. They have... No, they don't. Okay. So I'm just going to record the audio track on my end.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll see how that goes.
Okay.
And I'm started. All right. Is that working? I'm not seeing anything. Hello, test.
Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait. My Audacity
which input.
My Audacity is really, really low. Oh, because it's using it. Okay.
Yeah. I hit record and I saw a flat line. I'm like, that doesn't look right. Oh, that's because you're using the muted this one instead of that one. All right.
So I'm going to get rid of that one and start a new one and start recording, and we'll see what happens. Yes, there we go. There's some excellent audio stuff.
Perfect. So, I guess we can get started.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to Cosmic Tales, episode 23, a Guardians of the Galaxy podcast. I'm Jesse Butler, and I'm here with
Jeff Davis.
And today we're talking about Starlord. More specifically, Marvel Super Special Magazine number 10.
It is pretty super special. I do have to say, it's got fantastic artwork.
Yeah, who was... So this is our first glimpse of Starlord in color. And let me see the credits here. I wrote them down because there. Okay, so yes, this is writer Doug Munch.
Munch.
Munch. All right, that's right. So this is writer Doug Munch. One of those will work. Penciler Gene Cullen. Inker Thomas Palmer Sr., colorist Thomas Palmer Sr., editor Richard Marshall, and cover artist Earl Norim. So, yeah, I know Gene Cullen did a lot of stuff. I want to say he's done like Superman and he's done Fantastic Four. He's a name. Other people recognize him.
Also, an incredibly Boris Vallejo front cover here.
Yes, and in fact, that is the cover that they picked for the Starlord trade.
Does certainly evoke imagery of Conan.
Yeah, it's got Starlord with a gun in each hand, with a bikini-laden woman at his feet, grasping his leg, which is kind of odd because that doesn't happen at all in this.
No, I don't think it does.
He does meet a woman.
I think there might be something like that in the other one, but even then, it's not quite this extreme. But yeah, he's full Starlord regalia, and she's in metal bikini with tiny little thong and various accoutrements, looking scared and clutching his thigh. So that's a thing. You pretty much could just remove the space background and replace it with Hyboria, and it would still look perfectly normal.
Yep. So I've got a summary for us.
All right.
This is World in a Bottle. We begin with Peter Quill sleeping during a long voyage in space. He dreams of the adoration of those he saved. He dreams of being cast out as a demon. He awakens to searing pain in his side. A red tentacle of light is burrowing into the side of the ship. It pulls him out of the ship and through a black hole. He uses his element gun to punch a hole in the red tentacle, revealing the side of a vast ship. He's pulled back in and blacks out. He awakens, attacked by griffin-looking creatures. A mysterious woman tranquilizes one, but leaves just before a larger rescue party arrives. They explain how they rescued him from the weird tentacle, but he fired his blaster and ran into a neighboring area. They insist that he rests, giving him quarters. He dreams of his origin and of Earth. In the morning, he is given a tour by Aletha, the mysterious woman, and Noah. It is explained that this arc is all that is left of their civilization, their planet having been destroyed 3 million years before. The light-year-long ship has cities and biodomes and even animals. Not alien animals, but Earth animals. That reveal that somehow Starlord has been pulled into the future, and this is the last of mankind. They leave Peter to rest again, but before departing, Aletha passes him a note. At first it looks like alien gibberish, but then it reforms to tell him to meet him by a waterfall seen on the tour during the night shift. Starlord sneaks out and meets Aletha, who explains that everything he has seen is a lie. They are aliens disguised to look like him. They probed his mind while he slept to learn about his world. The military forces want to conquer a new planet, while the civilians are content to live on their massive ship. She implores him to help, and he agrees. Then they have sex. Starlord leaves the civilians in a revolt, and despite the military's weapons and ships, Starlord is enough to turn the tide of battle. They turn off their image projections and reveal the green aliens they truly are. Before Starlord settles into a new life with these aliens, Aletha takes him back to the waterfall and reveals that Ship is there, now fully recovered. As they fly off into space, Ship reveals that she had telepathically bonded with Aletha temporarily, so she shared the experience of sex with him. The end. So, what did you think?
A little creepy. I didn't see the the direct admission that she telepathically possessed Althea, but
it was very strongly implied.
Yeah, no, I saw that. Yeah, Ship seems to like using other women's forms to have sex with Starlord.
I'll admit, I was really surprised they didn't just make another android body for Ship after that last issue.
Well, yeah, but it had to fit in with the rest of them, so.
Right.
But as I said, some beautiful artwork, particularly the traveling through the tentacle thing and the splash page of the ship.
Yeah, it's a really good ship splash page where you just see part of the ship and it goes off in both directions off page to give you that enormity feeling.
Yeah. Other than that, it seems like an incredibly convoluted waste of energy to steal Starlord to try to find a planet to inhabit. Considering if you can extend a tentacle through a black hole and pull a person through it, to take them clearly light years and light years away from where they currently are, then one would think you'd be able to find an inhabitable planet fairly easily.
Yeah, it seems like they'd have enough technology that they could, conquer any planet they came across, or like terraform one.
Well, particularly considering they have a light-year spanning ship that has everything they could possibly need to continue to exist. Albeit, clearly they have to use some level of eugenics to keep the population under their 2 billion number, which they refer to. But, yeah, it seems like an incredibly elaborate deception to get hold of Starlord for reasons of attacking Earth. Particularly since Starlord could probably have just as easily said, oh yeah, there's this inhabitable planet, or this inhabitable planet, or this inhabitable planet that are much closer than Earth.
Yeah.
Yeah. But otherwise, you've got more... They really went another direction with Starlord because, they started off with him being the absolute jerk and killing people because... And yet, in this one, there's this constant, oh my god, I can't kill people. There has to be some way of talking with them and getting through it. He insists that he can't attack these people. And yet, he winds up having to do it. It's a very weird shift from their original Starlord.
Yeah, well, but they've shifted away from that for most of the issues past the first one.
Well, but even the previous one was, heroic, but he didn't really have a problem with fighting, and there wasn't as huge of an emphasis on pacifism.
It's true, although
he didn't like to kill, but he was still willing to fight, whereas in this one, he wasn't even really that willing to fight. So,
yeah,
but yeah.
I mean, I still don't think because he had taken that vow of not killing people, so I don't think he killed anyone since the first issue.
He got it all out of his system.
Yeah. Well, and they talk about that a lot more in the next issue we're going to look at.
Yeah, but certainly did see the inklings of that here as well, that they were really trying to emphasize the whole pacifism angle, which is interesting because they don't usually do that with superheroes. Superheroes are all too willing to jump in and punch everybody and do all that kind of stuff. There isn't a lot of narrative call for restraint. Just don't kill anyone. That's about the only thing.
Yeah. So this issue did remind me kind of an old Doctor Who episode called The Ark. where I mean, it's not quite the same, but it's got a generation ship. That one actually is like the last survivors of Earth, but they also have this kind of slave race, and then they lead a slave revolt. But then, like, they come back and visit the Ark later, and now the slaves are on top, and the humans are basically slaves, and so they have to do another revolt to be like, no, you guys got to be like both free and equal. Come on, guys. But it's probably just that they're both giant ships with biodomes and reserve populations.
Well, and things aren't as they seem, which is pretty common in science fiction.
Yeah.
The other strange thing being that Alethea is apparently perfectly fine with having been briefly possessed by ship.
Yeah, apparently. She enjoyed it.
Yeah. So I guess it was kind of a three-way then.
Yep. An
awkward three-way.
But yeah, so clearly this is one of those ones that's not part of the comics code, so it's a science fiction magazine, not a comic.
Completely different.
Totally different.
But yeah, otherwise it's a pretty standard science fiction story. There's not really a lot here that Starlord couldn't be replaced with half a dozen other science fiction hero types at this point. Aside from the whole pacifism and origin story. Also, they seem to like repeating his origin story a lot.
Well, since he's not like in and ongoing, they can't really rely on anyone to have read a Starlord comic from 6 years ago. So,
fair enough. I want to refresh everybody. Yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, it was a good story, and as I said, the artwork was quite good, but not a lot really stands out.
Other than first Starlord in color.
Yeah, well, there's that. I guess I'm a little jaded in that regard, since most of the comics I've read have been in color, but that's me. So
it's true, but we have a good third of my Starlord trade that's all black and white. So
yeah.
And in fact, we'll have one more black and white, and then the rest of Starlord stuff will be in color, which will be nice. So let's take a look at the next one.
Alrighty.
So this one is Marvel Preview featuring Starlord, number 18. And this is written by Doug Munch and art by Bill Sienkiewicz and Bob McLeod. I will say I was excited about that because Sienkiewicz is a fantastic penciler. I mostly know from New Mutants. He's the one who created Warlock originally, who has a very unique look.
I can certainly see that in the art style.
Yeah, so this one's black and white again, but like I said, he's does great line work, great shading. So it's really a shame this one's not in color.
True, but even then, as you say, he's excellent with the shading, so it doesn't really need the color so much.
You want to summarize this one? Because I'm curious to what your take is before I do mine.
We start out with what appear to be a race of aliens working with a human who have developed a weapon that can destroy a planetoid. The setup seems kind of... It seems at both that the Beast People are super aggressive, but also that there's trying to be some kind of a sympathy situation, because the human is all too willing to work with them and doesn't immediately come off as, mercenary type. He's not saying, okay, now you've got your weapon, pay me, kind of thing. They talk about the fact that they're going to finally be able to get vengeance, and then the ship immediately gets destroyed. The attackers manage to grab the power rod, which is the core of this super powerful weapon that can destroy a planet. But the Beastmen managed to send a message back to the rest of their race saying that the weapon was stolen and it was taken to a planet called Redstone. Then we catch up with Starlord, who is on ship, who has detected an incredible power source on a planet, amazingly enough, Redstone. And he begins to investigate, trying to figure out what's going on. The biggest thing that strikes him is the fact that they have a civilization which is largely at primitive levels of technology, but has high technology in very specific areas, which the bartender that he's talking about with says it's sort of one of these commune getting back to their roots kind of things. So the general population just sort of gets by with low levels of technology, and then the administration / government is the people who actually have the high technology. His gun is also confiscated because only the police are allowed to have weapons. And he is told at gunpoint that if he doesn't surrender it, they will kill him right there, which already sets them up as a totalitarian government. So you know this whole thing's going to come apart. The main leader guy, Kwanzar, has the rod and is scheming with it when they find out that ship is orbiting the planet. Kwanzar says, "Destroy the ship," which also furthers that he's evil and terrible. In the bar again, Starlord is just still trying to get what information he can when two beastmen burst through the window, kill a couple of people. He steals a sword from a scantily clad woman, and proceeds to knock them both out, and then steals the courier pouch that the beastmen were after to try to figure out what's going on. This is where he finds out about the ultimate power rod and the fact that it's in a particular area, and that's what Ship had originally picked up. The widgets also tell him that Ship is currently under attack and is voiding the planetary defense systems. They manage to get nearly to where the power source is. The Beastmen threaten to kill the woman if Starlord doesn't turn over the information. He turns over the information, and the Beastmen reveal that they are not actually Beastmen, that they were the original inhabitants of Redstone, who was conquered by Kwanzar. They were slaughtered down to a handful, who were then experimented on by scientists and turned into Beastmen, who then rebelled, captured ships, flew away to the planetoid that was destroyed at the start, and lived there long enough to develop the weapon that they were going to use to destroy Redstone and kill all of the people off. And the human they worked with was apparently Kwanzar's son, further showing he's evil because he was perfectly willing to just slaughter his son. The Beastmen say it doesn't matter that the woman who they are currently with was lied to and had absolutely nothing to do with any of this. They're still going to kill everybody on the planet, but they say Starlord, since he wasn't involved, can leave. Of course, he's Starlord. He can't.
Of course.
So they attack the palace that Kwanzar is in, and despite the fact that there are only two of them, manage to bust inside and kill the guards, and eventually they run Kwanzar through with a sword. Ship manages to buck the remote control drones that are after her, so she's safe. Starlord confronts the one remaining Beastman who killed Kwanzar, engages him in a sword fight, and fighting with his own sense of not killing, winds up running the Beastman through in order to try to stop them from destroying the planet out of mindless vengeance, which, again, rolls back to Peter Quill's origins. He feels great remorse for it, and there's a lot of suggestion that this has really fundamentally affected the direction that he's going. The woman bids him goodbye, he hops back on the ship, and heads off. After destroying the power rod.
Of course.
Yeah.
So I realized why these Starlord stories remind me a lot of classic Doctor Who. because they follow a similar pattern of you have a science fiction story already in progress, mysterious stranger appears out of nowhere, screws everything up, leaves a big mess, and takes off.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you also have which I've seen mostly with modern Doctor Who, but I assume there's some inklings of it with older Doctor Who, of the person who is desperately trying to be a pacifist and not kill, but people keep forcing them into situations where they have to choose life or death most of the times.
Yes. So, yeah, this kind of bothered me a bit because they basically set it up as like trying to be, you know, like must kill this guy or genocide will happen. Whereas it seems like,
oh, but killing this guy would be genocide.
Also true.
Yeah.
Because seriously, like, you know, he had disarmed this guy from the sword. He still had a knife, but, you know, I assume Starlord could get a knife away from the guy, and it would not be that difficult to capture the guy and take him prisoner and just keep him from doing genocide and not have to just murder him. So yeah, it did feel kind of forced, trying to be like, you know, pacifism is wrong. What about Hitler? Is really what it seems like.
Yeah, that's one of those things.
But I will say the art is fantastic, and I do really like they've got, you know, the point where he kills him. There's a close up on both his eyes and the Beastman's eyes. Yeah, it definitely shows good emotion in these scenes.
Oh yeah, no, I mean the visual storytelling of it is fantastic. The shadowed versions of himself as he's running the guy through, in order to go through 5 or 6 facial expressions to convey the totality of the emotion. You know, the defense into realization, into sadness, into shocked sadness. It's a nice, smooth transition, and you can certainly see it. Also, chintzy as it is, the Beastman would not have died from getting a sword through the belly, but still.
Well, they are still mostly human, so it was dramatic.
Yeah, it was totally set up to be dramatic. But yes, the artwork and everything for all of this is fantastic. The face wipes, if I may call them that, where the narrative is the close face or the close zoom in on the person's face, and they fade from the regular story panels into the flashback story panels. I've always kind of been fond of that. But all in all, again, it was another good story, and this one felt a little better than the other one, because this one was more of a something hinky is going on. I'm going to investigate it. Oh, there's more to it than I thought. Oh, there's a major moral quandary that I have to deal with that not only affects me, but affects an entire potential society and the repercussions of what they did to get where they were. There was a lot more meat to it, and there was a lot more of a natural transition through it. As opposed to the literal, I'm just going to grab you out of the middle of nowhere, throw you into the middle of this story. Oh, wait, this story isn't what it really seems, and we're going to tell you that through exposition, and then force you to do stuff.
Which is interesting, because these are both written by the same guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a matter of different story perspectives, because in this case, it's the misunderstanding between two things which are what they are, whereas the previous one was specifically an entire layer of deception.
Right.
Also have to say, what the hell is up with Kwanzar's outfit?
Let me look.
Page 12. I mean, he's wearing a tank top leotard with, I assume, a loincloth and nearly knee-high boots. And he's clearly an old man. Mind you, excellent physical condition, but still.
It is a little odd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The 70s, man, it was a rough time.
Apparently.
Also, again, we sadly see the 70s science fantasy trope of everybody else is in full outfits, relatively skin-tight outfits, but full outfits, and the woman is in a literal bikini and skirted thong, and she runs around in that throughout everything.
On the other hand, she had a sword and was perfectly willing to use it, but Starlord stole it from her, and she ran around chasing him to get the sword back. So,
yes. And did not contact the police or anything. No, she just chases after this crazy guy who stole her sword and then demands to get her sword back. Because I guess her sword is incredibly important for some reason.
Well, it's her honor or something,
Or
really
her only form of defense or something. But
yeah,
she does seem all too willing to go with Starlord, which again is a common trope in these situations, is that, beautiful woman will follow the hero regardless. And that actually also kind of has that Doctor Who vibe to it. Because it's also that sort of guy shows up, does something that directly affects my life and won't explain himself, so I'm going to follow after him and figure out what's going on here.
Yeah.
So.
He just gets a new companion every issue.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, it comes across as a much meatier and much more natural story.
Yeah.
So, eliminate Kwanzar and his utterly bizarre, terrible outfit, and it's a decent story. I mean, the villains are quite clearly villains, but it's one of those occasions where they
do make the Beastmen.
Yeah, the pro-antagonists, because they're kind of both, are sympathetic, but also driven by desires that can't really be accepted.
Right.
So it's that whole wrestling with moral issues and everything. But yeah, certainly we're seeing a lot more in the way of good use of Starlord. It is still in the 70s and 80s science fantasy trope era, because it's still that this is a science fiction magazine, this isn't a comic book. So you're really seeing that more grandiose style of storytelling, as opposed to the meta plots, or at least the more compartmentalized storytelling you're getting out of a regular comic book at this time. But it does seem like it's actually growing, at least.
Yeah, and these are longer than standard comic-ish books.
Yeah, which is why they have more of that novel short story feeling to them, as opposed to that comic book feeling to them. But yeah. I do like the direction they are taking this Starlord. It's still pretty far from what we see in the modern Starlord. But
yeah, well, modern Starlord doesn't really form until Annihilation in like 2004, 2005, whenever that was. So yeah. There's a pretty big gap of nothing. Like, I think the last one in this is in 96.
But yeah, he certainly has developed into an interesting character.
And it looks like Doug Munch is going to be the writer for the next few issues. So it's kind of interesting to see that, most of the early stories were Chris Claremont. So now we're getting kind of a different tone and voice.
Well, yeah, and the first one's completely different tone, but the second one that we read was, I want to say, a little bit more Doctor Who-like in the fact that it was one of those, at the end, the hero turns it completely around within his morality and concepts of how the universe should function. He pretty much just sets it up and then turns around in the chair and is like, ha, this is what's actually happening, and you didn't see it coming. Whereas in these two stories, we have a person thrust into a situation and he has to find a way of coping with it. And he's not in control. His vast quantities of power really mean nothing because these are quandaries that can't be resolved through force of will or intelligence alone.
Or element gun.
Any closing thoughts?
No, I think that covers it pretty well.
I mean, it's partially because this is more meaty fictions that we're dealing with and longer narratives, that there isn't a lot of the overt plot holes and little weird bits that you get out of a normal comic book. So they kind of make sense, and they're meant to be fully self-contained stories, as opposed to comic books, which, while each individual story may be somewhat self-contained, they often draw into meta plots or have little aspects that are pointed to later on that are either inflated or deflated in their importance, and so on.
Yeah, there's no hint to the next issue.
Yeah, there's no, oh my god, what happens to Starlord next? No, because you get that full narrative arc.
Although, interestingly enough, the next few we're going to look at move to Marvel Spotlight. So they'll be part of the Comics Code. And there'll be more regular-sized issues, although they'll still be kind of one-offs. So we got 2 Marvel Spotlights and then a Marvel Premiere.
Well, and that's, I mean, at this point, that's kind of what Starlord is your one-off. Because much like your other science fantasy types or your Doctor Who's or those, this is the guy who shows up because we want to tell this story, not because, oh, hey, we need to use Starlord more because he's popular.
Yeah, he definitely feels a lot more like the old Sorted Planet science pulps.
Yeah. And I mean, along similar lines, we're also not really seeing the cosmic stuff, which we did see with like Warlock and the early Thanos stuff and Drax the Destroyer. We're not seeing that kind of cosmic level.
Yeah, it's much more grounded sci-fi, as much as you could say for Beastmans with genocides and death rays. But
yeah, but I mean, for sci-fi, that's as grounded as you can really get.
Right.
But yeah, he's not wielding the power cosmic or anything. His element gun is powerful, but yeah, it's not the see-all end-all. And he's not caught up yet in all the other wacky cosmic stuff. Although, having read some later issues of other stuff, I see him getting sucked up into that. So,
yeah,
I skimmed over some of the later Thanos appearances with the end one and the Thanos Imperative.
Okay. Yeah, well, so I'm kind of curious when we get to pre-Annihilation. There's a Thanos series, and that's where Starlord really gets introduced into Marvel continuity. And it takes a while for him to be reformed into the modern Starlord. He's definitely very different in his first fresh appearance after 20 years of not being in comics.
Well, and see, that's the thing, is 20 years of not being in comics, all of a sudden you're getting yanked out and put into mainstream comics. It's just like if you'd grab '60s Batman and shoved him into the modern era. There's going to be some wackiness going on there.
Yeah. So yeah, I look forward to that, but that'll take us a while to get to.
Okay.
But we do have 3 more 80s Starlord stories to cover, all by Dave Munch. So we'll get to those relatively soon.
I look forward to it. This has actually been some seriously good reading. Comparatively to, not to diminish any of the writers of the era, but comparatively to some of the late 70s Avengers and Captain Marvels I've been reading, it's nice to see something with a little bit more oomph to it. I mean, I'm fine with space donkeys, but they only carry me so far.
Yeah, well, so I think next we're going to take a look at Moondragon and see where she's been up to, and then we'll come back to Starlord again.
Alrighty.
So, that sounds great. Thanks for listening, everyone.
And have a Starlordy day.
All right, I'm going to stop recording now.
Okay. Oh, I forgot I'm running the Audacity.
Yeah, so you want to put that on Dropbox or Drive or whatever.
Do you want me to dump the entire folder, or do you want me to export it as a single file?